Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Back in 2006, I worked for one of those big box stores that had an IT desk, formerly known as Nerd Herd, where people could bring devices in to get serviced if there was a problem. We were located in Columbus, Georgia, which is right over a bridge from Phoenix City, Alabama. This is important because where our store was placed, we would normally get a lot of servicemen and women coming up from Fort Benning who were generally pretty cool. But we would also get folks mostly from Alabama who were, let's just say, slightly unfavorable to folks of a certain skin color or gender. No offense to those who live in Alabama who are totally awesome. You know who you are. Now, I'm a 5'1" girl who at the time weighed a total of 120 pounds soaking wet. I was practically a hobbit. I was also one of the leading technicians in the department. I was the one that new hires went to if they were confused or couldn't troubleshoot certain problems. The team I worked with was amazing. The general manager of the store was great and the supervisor of my department was a man. I would regularly go out for drinks with these people. One of the best places I have ever worked at, even though it was retail. One day I'm working the counter to check customers in and do evaluations and diagnostics to give an estimate of what the repair price will be. In comes, let's call him Joe. He wore a cut-off t-shirt, worn denim jeans, and a baseball cap with a Confederate flag on it that just barely covered his business in the front. And of course, the party in the back. I am not one to judge on looks. I've had plenty of people come in looking exactly the same way this guy did, who has been an absolute delight to work with. Never judge a book by its cover, kids. But I still have my defenses up, just in case. I really hoped it wasn't going to go the not-so-friendly route. I was unfortunately wrong about Dear Joe. Joe walks up to the counter with his PC tower and practically slams a unit on my desk. I need this fixed, it's broken. Okay, sir, let me have a look and I'll see if I can. Joe cuts me off and stares at me with a disgusted look in his face. Excuse me? If you give me a moment, sir, I'll be able to take a look at your computer and… Oh, hell no. It was at this point that I realized where this was inevitably going to go wrong. I say, unfortunately, sir, I won't be able to give you an estimate if you don't let me diagnose your computer. There is no way in hell a woman knows about computers. I'm not letting you touch my computer. Give me the manager now. Oh yes, I thought. This is going to be awesome. I'm sure he wanted to talk to the general manager of the store, but I couldn't resist. Cue malicious compliance. I could have pulled on the manager thing because I was one of the senior staff, but my direct boss was actually out back working on repair projects, and I couldn't help but get excited about how this was going to go down. Me, as lovely as sweet tea. Of course, sir. Right away, sir. Mike, my supervisor, the guy who ran our department and not the general manager of the store, was elbow deep in a motherboard replacement when I walked in and gave him the biggest grin. Hey, Mike. There is a guy out there asking for the manager. He looked at me, confused because he was just a supervisor. But I then proceeded to tell him exactly what was waiting for him out front. His face split into the brightest smile. He then proceeded to walk out to the front. Have I mentioned that Mike is 6'3", 280-pound black man who looked like he could eat a Mack truck for lunch? He was such a big, lovable teddy bear. We all adored him. The moment Mike stepped out, the customer freaked. Hello, sir. I hear there is a problem. Joe lost it. It starts with a hell no before devolving into a racist tirade that I have never witnessed in my life. I'm from Massachusetts, so this was awful. It's amazing to watch. Like a car crash, I just couldn't look away. Not that we have no racism in the Northeast, but damn. Joe kept screaming using the nastiest slur. You know the one, over and over again, while staff and customers alike watched in blatant horror. Security ended up having to come over to try to calm the man down. Our entire security team was black as well, so naturally, Joe went even more crazy. Eventually, the police had to be called because the man was threatening me, calling me a witch and a jerk. Actually, he said much worse, and threatening security and my boss, using that word that is not okay. My general manager got called out of his office and immediately called the police to have the man removed. God bless whichever dispatcher who received the call was, because they dispatched 2 black officers to the scene. Me and my general manager were literally the only white people involved in this train wreck, aside from bigoted Joe. And I watched with unbridled glee as Joe was cuffed and taken away by the police. Watching Joe foam at the mouth as he was dragged away made my whole week. Thank you for the entertainment, bigoted Joe. I'm at a proper peach for the first time in decades, and this story just came up in conversation. I totally forgot about it until today, and thrilled there is a sub to share it with. I grew up in California, but not close enough to the beach to go there often, so it was a major treat for my brother and me. One summer when I was about 8, which would have made my brother about 6 or 7, we were having a blast building sandcastles with our little plastic pails and shovels. We'd found a spot with just the right amount of moisture in the sand for maximum structural integrity. It had towers and a moat and everything. We were about to call our mom over to look at it when this bigger kid, my age or a bit older, did a running jump into the middle of the castle. And he did not stop there. He kept jumping around and kicking until it was totally leveled, laughing the whole time. I knew when it was pointless to object, so I sat there silently while my little brother cried until the kid finished his destruction and ran off. I hugged my brother and said we'd built another one. He said tearfully, but he'll just kick it down again. I looked around for a moment and saw a large flat rock jutting up through the sand, about a foot high in my memory and seemingly sunk very deep. I told him not to worry and immediately got to work coating the rock in a layer of wet sand. I don't know if my brother understood, but we started rebuilding our masterpiece. We didn't get very far before we saw the big kid coming, and we moved out of his way. He did an elaborate pin kick right into the rock and collapsed instantly with a scream, grabbing his foot. I don't remember him saying anything to us, but just dragged himself up and limped away crying. Little brother and I repaired the damage to our castle and continued building happily. My memory is hazy after this, but I feel like I saw a woman who assumed was Big Kid's mother arguing with my mom. Somehow I knew I wouldn't be in trouble, so I didn't worry about it, and she never even brought it up with us. I got my sense of poetic retribution from her. My old man was always bigger and taller than most of the guys in his high school, so he often protected the smaller kids when they needed help or someone was picking on them. He would have been about 6 foot and 15 years old at the time. This was back in the day of the cane/switch for students who were misbehaving. He and his friend were in class talking like most of the other students, when the teacher threatened them all with a cane if they didn't shut up. Teachers and students knew that anywhere near the neck or head was off limits. That's the law in our country at the time. The teacher proceeded to walk around caning kids until they shut up. That smaller friend in the class sitting next to him was going through a rough patch that the school administration knew about. No one had thought to inform this teacher and was telling my father quietly that he needed to go outside for some air. Before he could get up to go, the teacher hit him from behind, high across the back of the neck/lower head, where your neck joins the skull. He hit him with a cane and my dad's mate was dazed. My father, being bigger and taller than the teacher, instantly stood up and held the teacher by the collar and dragged him into the corner, and he held him by the neck on the wall while checking back if his friend was okay. The corner happened to be right next to the classroom door, so my father was holding him behind it. His friend came up, opened the door, told the old man to let the teacher go. My dad kinda shrugged and let go of the teacher. The teacher, who was freaking out at this point, thinks my dad's mate is walking out of the classroom and is all relieved. Nope, he started slamming the door on the teacher. Not lightly either, for a good 30 seconds. My old man said you could see a dent from the teacher's head in the door. For his last 2 years at the school, the teacher wasn't in good condition after that. So Dad went down and told them mid-bay, and then went straight to see the principal to explain the situation. Dad gets away with laying hands on the teacher. His friend was given the rest of the week off to recover, as I said he was going through some stuff. And the teacher struck off the teacher's register in my country and could never teach again. Wasn't his first warning by the sounds of it, and had been on probation with the National Teachers Association. Apparently the other teachers couldn't stand him and thought it was hilarious that he got the hell beaten out of him by a couple of 15-year-olds. The whole school, teachers included, started using that teacher's name as a verb whenever another teacher left the school suddenly. I.e., Mr. Smith fully jiffed it. Pretty good outcome all around. This happened about 10 years ago. There was a Karen that had been with the company for nearly 15 years. Her title was project manager, but she was really more of an office admin and various internal projects would get pushed to her. These were things to help improve how the office worked, but nothing critical. One of these projects was actually deemed to be important and it was reassigned to me. She hated this and stonewalled me all the time. It caused the project to be delayed, and I was getting crap from some of the executives because of this. When I commented that it was difficult to get information from Karen, she became super sweet and said she was bending over backwards to help me. I did not understand the project and so on. I powered through anyway. But then there was a round of layoffs, and she was one of them. Due to her time with the company, she received a 3-month severance and extended benefits. It was weird, but the company essentially cut monthly severance checks instead of paying them out all at once. But she also had to sign an NDA and non-disparagement agreement on the exit, as well as confirm that she had handed over all company materials and files. I went to go grab some files related to the project and everything was gone. Karen had deleted everything. This was before using things like Teams, Google Drive, and so on. Everything was on shared network drive, so it wasn't super easy to get the backup. But Boomer Karen was the type that used her work email for all her personal accounts, including LinkedIn. It was also company policy that the emails of departed employees would be forwarded to their department heads for a few months. Using this knowledge, I went to LinkedIn and sent a message. Hi Karen, I heard about your departure. I hope you can use the time to take the vacation you talked about. I went to grab some of the files but noticed they were missing. Do you have backups you could share? When she responded, it also went to her old email, and thus to the department head. Don't pretend to be nice. I wouldn't be surprised if you helped me get fired. Good luck finding any of those files. I deleted everything. Screw you. Well, when that got forwarded to HR, that she had put in writing that she had deleted everything, it was determined that this violated the severance agreement. All severance checks were immediately stopped. Oh, so sorry, Boomer. So, I used to work for a grocery chain as a manager. One day, a different location in a neighboring city called my store and asked if we had any books of stamps we could spare as they ran out and weren't expecting more for a couple weeks. I said sure and electronically transferred 20 books of stamps and said I'd drop them off after my shift. So my shift ended and I drove straight there. My house was not on the way and walked in the company's manager uniform. I knew where the office was and walked upstairs, knocked on the door and gave the manager on duty the stamps. Before I left, I decided to buy a 6-pack of beer and some snacks as I had the next 2 days off. I got in line and there were 2 registers open and super long lines for both. One of the cashiers was the manager on duty and we obviously had the exact same uniform. I even still had my keys and box cutter on my belt and name badge on. The lady behind me said, "Hello," and I didn't turn around. She tapped on my shoulder And I turned, and she lifted her arms up and gave me a "what the hell" look. She said, "This is ridiculous. Look at these lines. Open up another register now." I didn't want to say I don't work here or I work at a different location because technically I did work there. If I wanted to, I could use my credentials to sign on to their registers because I'm a manager and our credentials work at any location. So instead, I said my shift is over. I am not on duty, ma'am. Karen didn't like this response and started raising her voice, saying things like, "You're the manager, I don't care if your shift is over. You're getting paid no matter what, so open up a register. I'm not waiting in this line, and if I do, I will call corporate." She was wrong here. I wasn't getting paid no matter what, as my level of management was a step right below salaried. If I wasn't clocked in, I wasn't getting paid. In most other circumstances, and if the lady was polite instead of screaming at me, I honestly would have opened up a register to kill the lines and just worked out the clock for a few minutes, no biggie. But because she was so rude, I just turned around and continued to ignore her screaming at me for the next 10 minutes we stood in line. Several people told her to shut up and leave me alone. Once I checked out, I set down my items on the floor and began bagging Karen's $300 cart of groceries. She said, "What are you doing?" I smiled at her and said, "Oh, I changed my mind." Finished bagging, grabbed my stuff and left. Never heard about it from corporate either. Not that I would have gotten in trouble anyway. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.